This podcast is brought to you by Contessa Digital.
Hey, love. Have you ever seen something like on social media, a video, a post that just sends you down a complete rabbit hole, and then everything else you see starts to relate to this one thing? So for me lately, it has been the concept of just saying no or of being rejected. And I wanted to talk to you about this and about all the things that I've seen, because it is a key factor in why you may be struggling to have the relationships that you really and truly want. And I'm hoping that my trip down yet another social media rabbit hole will actually be productive and help you out. So welcome to Confidently Cherished. My name is Keisha Rice. I am a dating coach and now hypnotherapist for ambitious women of faith. And this whole idea of rejection and being told no and saying no, it started with one video on TikTok, which I feel like everything nowadays starts with a video on TikTok, right? And in this video, it was this young woman talking about her process of going through rejection therapy. So if you're not familiar with this concept, it is quite what it sounds like. So she is making a series of videos in which she asks people questions that she is sure they will say no to in an attempt to take the sting out of rejection. You know, she is doing this in situations that are lower risk, because often she is asking complete strangers for things like, will this person give her $100, for example? And because these are strangers and people that she'll probably never see again, these people saying no to her is less of a quote unquote risk than her being told no in real life situations with, say, family members or the person she's dating or, on her job. But getting in this habit, this process of being told no, allows her to build up that tolerance so that she can deal with those things in a more real life situation, which allows her to take more risk in her life. So, I saw a couple of videos with this woman in particular, and you know how the TikTok algorithm goes. So after I saw videos from her, I saw videos from other women who were using rejection therapy. And then, if you've seen this movie, this may not make sense, but I promise you I'm going to bring it home. But then I saw a couple of TikTok videos about the movie The Menu, which I believe is on Netflix and HBO Max at the time of this recording. And after seeing so many clips, I had to watch the movie, which, if you know me, is unusual because The Menu is described as both a horror film and a comedy. And I love comedies. I am not into horror movies at all. My husband loves them, and that's like his big disappointment in me, is that I won't watch horror movies with him. So if you've never heard of The Menu is a movie about a couple. As you watch the movie, you'll find out that they're not as much of a couple as they seem like they are at the very beginning of the film. But it is about a couple, a young man, young woman, who they, along with a group of about 10, 12 other people, end up taking a boat to this private island, and the private island has a restaurant where there's a eccentric chef who cooks this really special fancy meal for them. So he has this special menu prepared for all the guests. And I will not give away the movie, but the menu does involve murder, more than one murder. So the reason why this movie, after I watched it, and by the way, this is one of those movies where on one hand, I really thought it was a good movie. On the other hand, I really did finish it with like, what the hell did I just watch? So if you do watch this movie, don't be surprised if you have the same reaction. And also, if you don't like it, don't get mad at me, because it's strange. Good movie. Didn't think that I would like it. Ended up liking it, but it's definitely very strange. But anyways, after I saw the movie, I thought about all of this rejection therapy, right? And it made me think about the fact that to some extent, there's two types of people in the world, right? So you have people who are like half the characters in the movie The Menu. These are people who are very entitled. They've never been told no, because again, this restaurant where the patrons are having their dinner is on a private island. Is something like $1,200 a plate. One of the characters says that at the beginning of the movie. And of course, you have to travel to get there and everything. So the people eating in this restaurant are very wealthy and entitled people. So you have that group of people in the world who never hear no. Like they grew up always getting what they want, right? And if, God forbid, someone were to ever tell them no, they would completely flip out because they're not used to it. And then you have people like the women that I see doing these rejection therapy videos, where they are so used to always being the ones who say yes to people and being the ones who get told no, who get rejected, that, they're going through an entire therapy process to get over that fear and allow themselves to take risk and possibly hear no again. This brings me to the part of the podcast where I actually talk about dating and relationships, right? Because that's why you're here. I want to talk to you about this whole idea of loss aversion. If you've never heard the term loss aversion, it is this idea, and there are lots of scientific studies to back this up. So you do not have to just take my word for it. Just Google loss aversion and you will see, Google loss aversion and study, and you will see plenty of studies and research about this. But loss aversion is the idea that people will do whatever they can to avoid loss, even if that means also not getting pleasure. So some of these studies have shown that the pain of losing something for most people is worse than the pleasure of getting something. Or let me rephrase that. The pain of losing something is more intense than the pleasure of getting something. So that means money is an easy example of this. People feel more pain because they lost $50 than they would feel pleasure if someone just handed them $50. And again, not to say that they don't feel pleasure at all if someone handed them $50, but it's a matter of intensity, right? So the pleasure is it's nice, it's pleasurable, but it's just not as intense as that pain. When it comes to dating and relationships, I see this a lot with not just my clients, but with friends of mine. I have a friend who recently posted on social media. She was talking about the fact that she is no longer doing online dating because she tried online dating before. It didn't work out for her. She didn't meet her man, her soulmate, the previous time she tried online dating. And then she ended up meeting a guy, getting married, and getting a divorce. And now that she's divorced, she says that she tried online dating again, and she decided that she was going to give it up again because she was not pleased with the quality of men that she met on whatever online dating site or app she used. And I do plan on talking to her about this because, it's what I do for a living. But, I've given her space to process. I definitely understand that getting back into the dating game after an extended period out of it is not the easiest thing in the world. And sometimes people need a little grace and patience and time before they can really dive headfirst back into that. But, my question, whenever I see something like this, is how long did you give this a shot? How many dating sites and apps did you try? How many dates did you actually go on? Or did you reject every single match? Because oftentimes what I see is a lot of loss aversion in situations like this. So I have clients who are afraid to set boundaries with their family members, with their friends, at their jobs, with their clients, the ones who own businesses, because they're afraid of making people mad. They're afraid that people will get upset with them. This is loss aversion. They don't want to deal with the pain of someone not liking them, even though they cognitively know, even though we've discussed and I've helped them to understand and realize that once they set these boundaries, there's so much pleasure ahead because they're able to better show up in the healthy relationships. They have a better relationship dynamic with the people who do stay in their lives. And the people who don't accept their boundaries aren't meant to be in their lives anyway. Yet, there's still so much fear. And the same goes with dating, whether it's in person or it's online. I so often see women who put themselves in situations where they continue to date the same men over and over that they are not aligned with because that feels comfortable, even if it's not pleasurable. It's the type of man they understand. It's a type of man that they've dealt with before. And because our brain likes to keep us safe and our brain loves patterns, they are often attracted to men who may not necessarily be in their best interest to date this type of man. But meanwhile, they will be on an app. And I know this because I have been in sessions with clients where I've had them go through their matches with me, right? Or I've done this with friends, sat on the couch with them while they were looking through matches. And someone shows up on the app, they swipe or whatever. And it is someone who would be a great match for them, but they believe that that guy would not go for them. They believe that, that type of man is looking for a different type of woman, even if he is already matched with her. And, I will point that out. And then it's, oh, well, then he's just not serious. He must be looking for a booty call. He's just trying to get some. And a lot of this is that whole idea of being afraid of rejection, not wanting that pain. I often talk to my clients about not being afraid when they're, out in real life, not on their phones, not in front of their laptops, to not be afraid to just start a conversation with a man and see where it goes. I do believe that there's balance in this. I don't think that you should go out with any type of desperate energy. I don't think that as women we should take too much of a lead. But if you go into the situation with no expectations, you will pleasantly surprise yourself. Back to this idea of pleasure, you will pleasantly surprise yourself with the things that can happen. When I was single, right before I met my husband, I started doing this. I started going to restaurants, coffee shops, just being out and about, being shopping, and just starting conversations with men, not in this attempt that I was going to necessarily find a boyfriend, because I talked to all types of men. I talked to good-looking men. I talked to men who I didn't find as attractive. I talked to men who were younger than me, men who were older than me. I was just starting conversations, right? And it would be simple things. Being in a coffee shop or in a restaurant and saying, hey, what you're eating looks really good. What is that? I might want to order that. Or if I'd already ordered, the next time I come here often. So the next time I come here, I might order that. What is it? Or if I saw a man reading a book, asking, what was the book? And there were cases where, I ended up starting that conversation, and the guy I was with ended up asking me out on a date. There were cases, I can think of one case in particular, where I ended up having a very nice conversation with this guy, and I thought he was interested in me. He ended up friend zoning me, but it turned out to be a very good situation for me because I was new in town at the time, and he ended up introducing me to his circle of friends. And some of those people are, years later, people that I still talk to. Doing that was how I found the church I ended up going to in one particular town that I lived in. Doing that was how I found out about different things in the community, the opportunities to volunteer. So, yes, there were cases in which this turned into romantic situations for me, and I ended up dating someone. But this openness to not be loss avert, to not be so concerned about rejection, allowed me to have so many opportunities for myself and my life and my social life that I would not have had if I'd been so afraid of, what if this person clowns me? What if this person doesn't want to talk to me? What if this person rejects me? Everything that you want is on the other side of fear, on the other side of resistance. If you are not 100%, I do mean this, if you're not 100% happy with the life that you are living right now, then and I know that some things have to change. And oftentimes that change is something that you have been, that you have not been willing to do, that you have been scared to do. And I want to ask you, if you were to visualize your dream self, the woman that you want to be, she is doing things that you're currently not doing. And with all the love in the world, it is time for you to actually become her, not dream about her, but to actually go out there and do it. We allow this concept of loss aversion to hose us in every aspect of our lives. We don't get the ideal bodies that we want because we're afraid of the loss of giving up, chocolate ice cream, right? We don't have the careers that we want, or we don't have the businesses that we want because we're so averse to loss. My first year in business, my business was not a business. It was a very, very, very expensive hobby because I invested all this money into starting a business, but because of loss aversion, because of my fear of being rejected, I was not putting myself out there as a business, right? So I wasn't making any money because I wasn't selling my coaching. And even when I did offer coaching to people, I was so afraid of the rejection that I would just offer it for free. So, I was spending money to have a business, but I definitely wasn't making any because of this whole concept of loss aversion. And I found that once I got the courage to actually start charging clients, and when I say I got the courage to actually start charging clients, I didn't find this courage until like a year after I was certified as a life coach. So it took me a while. But once I got this courage up, yes, I got no's. I still get no's, but I also got a lot of yeses. And I also got better clients. Like I love the women that I work with now. And the more I put myself out there, the better the women who come to me, the better they are. It's the same with this podcast. This podcast was launched more than a year after the date that I said I was going to launch it because of loss aversion. I was afraid to put my voice out there. And again, in my personal dating and relationship life, which is how I know this applies to you as well, I allowed myself to settle for relationships that were beneath me because I was afraid of actually going after the types of relationships that I wanted. I allowed myself to be in relationships where my needs weren't met, and I never spoke up about it because I was afraid of the loss. Fear, I was going to say fear is not real. It actually is real. From an evolutionary standpoint, we do have fear. The purpose of fear is survival. So back in the caveman days when we had lions and tigers and lions and tigers and bears, oh my, when we had like very scary animals running after us all the time and threatening to eat us, then like fear was a very useful tool because it allowed us to be more alert, to be more focused, to run faster, all that great stuff. And, nowadays, fear should still serve that purpose. It's not like we really have animals chasing after us, but, fear would serve its purpose in a situation where you were in actual, real, grave danger. But fear is a very misplaced emotion when it comes to things like starting a business, when it comes to things like taking that leap and going back to school, and definitely when it comes to having a conversation with a man who could be your husband or introduce you to the man who becomes your husband, right? Like, this is not a situation that you should be fearful of. So I want you to do something for me. Like, yes, I'm going to give you some homework. And that homework is to take out a pen and paper and just journal for me. How has loss aversion affected your life? Think of some of the times in which you could have gone for something that you wanted, anything. So, I don't know, your dream body, your dream house, your dream career, your dream business, that dream man, whatever it is. You could have gone for something that you wanted, but you didn't do it because you were so afraid of how much pain you would be in from being rejected that you allowed your mind to block out all of the potential rewards from going after the situation. So you journal on that. And also, if you want to share your takeaways with me from this episode, I would absolutely love to hear it. You can DM me on Instagram. I am at Keisha Rice, KESHIARICE. And I'm also at Keisha Rice on TikTok and YouTube, by the way. But you can DM me, let me know your thoughts, or even better, you can take a screenshot of this episode and share it to your stories so that other people can enjoy it as well. I will talk to you soon. Love you so much, and thank you for listening. Hey there. So you made it all the way to the end of the episode, which means I have two things to say. One, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And two, you like me. You really like me. So I would appreciate it if you would show that like by subscribing to this podcast so that more people can hear about it and enjoy it as much as you do. And if you want to know more about any of the links that I mentioned on this episode or any guests that I've had, be sure to go to KeishaRice.com/links. That's KeishaRice.com/links. I can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode. So see you then.